You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Shawn Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Super excited to welcome a friend to the show today. Ivan, please go ahead and get us started.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach, and I'm happy to discover that Shawn has a friend. And I'm also excited about our guest today. I heard a lot about you, but I never met you in person. He is a colleague of mine, Dr. Julien Labruyère. Dr. Julien is the co-founder and director at VetCT, a leading provider of veterinary teleradiology and teleconsulting services for veterinary practices. He serves as the company's chief innovation officer. As a distinguished veterinary radiologist, Julien earned the diploma of the European College of Veterinary Diagnostic Imaging in 2009. In 2010, he held the position of associate professor and head of diagnostic imaging unit at the Veterinary School of Maisons Alfort in France. Dr. Julien also recently completed his MBA at the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom in 2022. And I'm excited to talk to you about our topic today.
Thank you very much, Yaman. Very happy to be here.
I would love to talk to you about VetCT because you guys are one of my favorite companies out there, and I think that you're the future of the specialty medicine. But we also wanted to unpack the topic of AI and everything that is happening in the world. It's insane how fast this era of technology is developing. And for those veterinarians out there, AI is not only artificial insemination, but also artificial intelligence. We want to talk about the importance of educating veterinary professionals about AI tools and developing and leveraging AI tools effectively to enhance workflow and client communications. So, Julian, I'll start just by asking you, how did you get involved and excited about AI in the veterinary profession? And where do you see the main application of it right now?
Sure. Thank you very much for the introduction. Well, we're a global teleradiology company, and we provide as well teleconsulting and education services for the profession. So our core business being teleradiology, we've been looking at AI for quite a while because there are definitely applications here. And we are very excited about the potential of AI in veterinary medicine because we think it can bring a lot of benefits in the industry. It's definitely a fundamental innovation for us. But we also recognize that there is currently lack of veterinary standards and lack of regulation in our profession. And therefore, as a mission in our company, we have, we want to make the veterinary world a better place. And I think that we should educate the veterinary professionals and provide a good understanding of AI so that a veterinary professional can deploy AI in their practices in the way it can improve working lives, but also clinical outcomes. So that's one thing, education. And secondly, we think that as an industry, we need to lead the way. We need to promote discussion around AI. If you think about it, it's a bit the Wild West currently in AI. If you are a developer, you can develop your algorithm and then put it in the industry. But we think that vets have the mission to do the right thing and to protect the animal welfare and clinical outcomes. So therefore, the profession, we want to make sure that we can promote good standards for the development of AI tools.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I mean, this is a topic that me and Ivan had a bunch of conversations with, and I've just been kind of fascinated with it as well. And it's interesting, Julian, because there's companies like Radimal and SignalPet out there that are kind of giving first opinion of radiographs. And then there's companies like yours that have actual trained radiologists that there's very few of in the world. So the thing that I'd like to talk about is like the intersection of the human and the AI, because I think that's kind of where the magic happens. And I'd love to get your perspective on your business in relationship to how these two very distinct things, AI and humans, play together nicely to offer better outcomes to the world that we operate in.
That's a very good question, and I think we really need to look toward what's happening in the human side of things. And if we look for diagnostic imaging, which essentially is a subject close to my heart, it is clear that what they're doing in diagnostic imaging is developing very specific tools to address a specific indication. So they will, for instance, develop a tool that will screen for fractures in specific bones. They will develop a tool to look for small nodules in mammography. They will look at specific cancer, prostatic cancer in MRI. So very, very specific tools, and they're working very, very hard to improve the accuracy over time. And they put those tools in the hand of radiologists so that radiologists can work better, more efficiently, and have something that can really guide them toward the right diagnosis. And I think this is something that we need to look at in veterinary medicine as well. After reaching the peak of thinking that we're going to solve all the problem of the world with AI, I think we need to take a step back and start to develop tools that could augment the way we work as humans. That could be a good first step.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, Julian, is I don't know, 5 years ago, me and Ivan were in California at a Google conference, and there was the chief technical officer for the Japanese government, somebody from Italy, and they were telling us back 5 years ago how in human health, every radiograph that was produced in these companies, because of the lack of human radiologists, it went through an AI image recognition system and prioritization system. And so I feel like, human medicine in this particular capacity is a little, probably vastly ahead of veterinary medicine. So I would like to kind of, as somebody that's intimately familiar in this world, where do you see veterinary medicine going to catch up? Is it like what's happening with SignalPad and Ratimel? And what is your organization doing to kind of further veterinary medicine to kind of catch up to what's going on from an AI perspective in human medicine?
Sure. Well, I think we need to decide on the standards and the regulation that we want for the profession. So, I mean, it's clear if you look at the humans, it's very. They start to be very well organized. So they have, for instance, CE marking systems or FDA approval system, where if you want to put a tool out there, you need to have those approval going through quite stringent regulation. Or recently, I've seen there is an EU Artificial Intelligence Act to determine the level of risk that AI technology could pose to human health. It is probably a little bit overkill, to go that way, because the two industries are quite different. But I think there's probably a place for self-regulation here, where we can all sit around the table, private company, professional organizations, and then we decide what do we need to do so that we can create AI tools that veterinary professionals can trust, and at the end of the day will improve animal welfare. And for that, I'd like to basically take 2 minutes to explain the concept of transparent AI. Transparent AI is developing tools where you explain what you're doing. You explain your methodology, for instance. So which model you are using, what type of data partition you are using to avoid data leakage, for instance, what type of data you are using, so the origin of the data, the type of data you are using, the size of the data you are using, it's very important. And third, I think it's important as well to publish the performance metrics so that anyone that is interested about a tool know where to find the information and build the confidence toward using this tool. So I think that could be a good thing that everybody could sit down and discuss on how to be transparent about AI.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I mean, it makes me think of conversations that me and Ivan have been having kind of nonstop.
Yeah, it's interesting because the listeners might be actually witnessing right now something that we're thinking of creating. And I know that we had discussions with your company and colleagues, both Liz Barton and Victoria. We're actually creating this sort of organization that will set these standards, if you will, where everybody agrees on it and we think it's safe. Some sort of a regulatory body where if you agree to play ball with it, then you get a stamp of approval. And that's something that I think is really important in vet medicine, because we are not going to agree with any regulatory bodies soon about this topic. In veterinary medicine, the technology develops way too fast for the industry, and regulations are never going to catch up. They're still catching up with the telehealth. But it's interesting. What is your view on that kind of organization or association? What could that look like? And what do you think in general?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that we need to do, and I wouldn't say that I have the answer to that, but I think the first step is a collegial work where we gather around the table the actors and the users of AI. So and the actors are veterinary practitioners, so represented from this pool. The actors are veterinary governing bodies, such as the RCVS, for instance, in the UK, specialist organizations. So in diagnostic imaging, you have the ECVDI or the ACVR, but every single specialist organization have their organization. And I think for the validation of those tools, obviously specialists, are probably very relevant. And then the professional organizations as well have a role to play. So the AVMA in the US, I believe, the BIVA or the BSAVA in the UK, and start those discussions internally in the industry. And then we could add as well a representative from outside the industry, which essentially would come from the human field, because I think we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We could look at what has been done in the human medicine, get inspired, and take what could be relevant for the veterinary medicine to develop those standards and those regulations that are needed now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's kind of fascinating, like this conversation, and like backing out of it, having a seat at the table, having many people have a seat at the table for the benefit of the profession, the users, the pets, the pet owners. I think it all kind of makes sense. But let's have a little bit of fun now. Like regulation and all of this stuff is kind of interesting, a little bit boring, necessary. But Julien, if we were to get an organization like this together and set up some standards and everything went well, and we've got this body that's going to help us protect us from ourselves and kind of ensure that we're paying attention to the right things, where does this all go? What's the future of AI look like? What's the future of AI for your business look like? What's it look like? And what gets you excited about this? There's all kinds of things to not be excited about, but what gets you excited about AI and what it can do for this profession?
We could look at every single aspect of the profession, and we recently published an article that is out there for anybody to download it on our website. It's a white paper on AI, and basically is review all the application of AI in the veterinary medicine. And so we did this paper because we thought that there is a lack of knowledge in the profession, and it's a huge bibliographic work that was mainly done by fabulous Liz Barton, who's our head of communication at VetCT. And essentially, she has done this work of looking at the impact of AI in veterinary medicine in general, but in the equine industry, in the livestock industry, what are the ethics of AI in diagnostic imaging, obviously. But it's a great piece of work, which I recommend everybody to have a look at. But the other thing that she did is to involve Chat GPT as a co-author. So she wrote the article by prompting the tool to give an answer. And you only have this piece of information at the end of the article because you realize that there is a color coding system in the article, and that relates to how much the text from ChatGPT was edited. If it's white, this comes completely from a human. If it's red, it's a ChatGPT text that slightly has been edited. If it's green, it's only ChatGPT. So not only we've done this bibliographic piece of work, which really looks at all the aspects of AI in the veterinary medicine, but we also provide a bit of a critique of ChatGPT. And that was very exciting. Coming back to your question, Shawn, is what excites us is this tool ChatGPT, for instance, has has a use, in every segment of our lives, and in veterinary medicine as well. But what it showed us is that there is some limitation as well. For instance, we've seen that this is a tool that could have the so-called hallucination. So something that she had is she was asking for some references for a paper, and then ChatGPT did a false construction of references with authors that exist, but inventing a title and put that in the journal, and it looks completely believable, but it's obviously completely constructed and false. So this is very exciting in one sense, but in the other sense, AI also has some limitation, and we should really learn about those limitations to be able to use AI properly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you want the entire profession to be aware that they may have to pump the brakes. And I think that that's a very meaningful message, because when you read what these large language models are able to produce, it reads as factual information, and often, almost for certain, contains hallucinations or information that is false. There's lots of things that can be done to prevent this, and there's all kinds of excitement around these tools. But that's one thing when I speak to any audiences at the conferences that I seem to do a lot of nowadays is don't think that you are reading a peer-reviewed scientific journal, because you're not. You're reading text that's generated by a large language model that doesn't work the same way that peer-reviewed information
Exactly.
works. Yeah. What really excites you when you think forward to the future and the possibility? They're great for idea generation today. They can give you an outline, they can give you a summary of a website, but AI is going to do a lot more for us. Is there particular areas that excite you in terms of this technology?
Yes. No, massively. Let me talk about my field. So diagnostic imaging. And there's so many applications that we can think about or are currently in use, especially in human medicine. In human medicine, just coming back to them, for instance, I think a couple of years ago there is a study that shown that out of all the AI tools that have been approved by the FDA, 50% of them are for diagnostic imaging. So they are clearly here a use of AI for this specialty, and it's probably due to the fact that the convolution networks are very appropriate for images and very helpful to solve some problems. But if I go through a list of things that could really revolutionize in a way the way we work, a radiologist, and also benefit clinical outcomes. I mean, you can think of AI based triage systems that helps radiologists to prioritize case and manage their workflow by identifying the high priority cases, compare that cases that are probably less urgent. That's one thing. Computed aided detection tools, so the CAD, those are the tools I was mentioning at the beginning that could help radiologists to be more efficient, or to screen for disease that could easily miss. Then you have all the image segmentation, image classification, where or image measurements as well, where AI tools could automatically measure some part of the body, and then basically help the radiologist very quickly to make an accurate diagnostic. And then you have something that humans are talking a lot about, and I haven't seen much here in veterinary medicine, but I'm sure it will come. This is this concept of radiomics. So I don't know if you heard about them. This is essentially all the little features that exist in an image, but that you cannot see with your eyes. So for instance, individual pixel and voxel intensity values, and those criteria that belongs to a lesion, for instance, could be extracted, from a very large database, and then used to look at a tumor progression, a treatment response, a survival rate, etc.
Okay, finally, we found it. We found your excitement. That's what I was looking for. Thank you very much.
I can go for
So
hours.
I thought so, and that's why I interrupted you, because we make a promise to our guests to record for about 20 minutes. So with that promise comes the abrupt ending of your excitement. So I apologize. We'll have to have you back on the show. We like to wrap up the same way every single episode. So we've got a couple questions for you. The first is a YouTube, a TED Talk, something you've read or consumed that you find inspiring that you think you'd like to share with our guests.
Yeah, so the one I wanted to mention is a TED Talk I watched recently, but it's not that recent. It's a TED Talk from Gary Kasparov that he did in 2017. And so it is basically titled "Don't Fear Intelligent Machines, but Work with Them." And this is fascinating. So I'm not a very good chess player, but Gary Kasparov was once upon a time a grandmaster of chess, the world best chess player. And then in 1997, I believe, he has been bitten by a supercomputer called Deep Blue. And that was a revolution, basically. And the title in the press were just amazing. Now that's it. Computers are more clever than humans, they're going to replace us, etc. This is a Terminator kind of event. And you would think that Gary Kasparov would have been a bit miffed about this event, but so during the presentation of TED Talk, he came with this message that machines are here to augment humans. And it just explained that the collaboration human plus machine is better than a machine on its own or a human on its own. So I think it's very interesting TED Talk, that comes with a philosophical reflection around machines and obviously AI in our society, and I would recommend the watch.
That's awesome. And the second question that we ask at the end is there a guest that you recommend to be on this podcast?
Yeah. So for this one, I'm going to be a bit boring. Obviously, I would love you to be able to invite the Elon Musk of this world and the Mark Zuckerbergs.
No, we banned him.
But
we wanted to invite him, but we thought that he did not qualify as an innovator.
But then what to come back to the earlier piece of discussion we had with the relation with the human side of things, I'd love you to invite Dr. Curtis Langlotz. He's a human radiologist working at Stanford University, and he wrote in 2019 a fascinating article, Will Artificial Intelligence Replace Radiologists? And so he came with this very famous quote in our specialty, but I'm sure you probably have heard it. It's radiologists who use AI will replace radiologists who don't, and you can replace radiologists by veterinary or anything. And I think this is very interesting. Basically, one, because I think there is real collaboration with humans, the human medicine, but secondly, because AI is here really to augment us rather than replacing us.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.